Set number 2 will be played on Neoplanet S. Spawning in the top right-hand position as the green Protoss from KT Rolster. His name is Puzzle.
His opponent spawns in the bottom left position of the map. Red Protoss playing for STX Seoul. His name is Deer.
So for some of you old school StarCraft fans out there, at least from Starcraft2, you may be thinking to yourself, the name Puzzle sounds pretty familiar, but I can't kind of, put my finger on where he was. So he used to play for Slayers back in the day before that team disbanded, and he wanted to try MOBA games. I think he tried playing League of Legends for a little bit. Didn't really work out for him, and eventually, with Heart of the Storm, he did return to the StarCraft competitive scene, where he quickly was able to find a new home with KT Rolster, and this is where he resides currently.
For the older fans out there, you might be saying, isn't Classic a Terran player? Yes, he was a Terran player back in Brood War. He stuck with Terran through Wings of Liberty, but in Heart of the Swarm, he switched to Protoss, and he's been doing fantastic for STXO.
It really is a day and night difference between his play. Like, it's just ridiculous how much better he is at Protoss than Terran. And I guess just the race switch really suited his playstyle a lot better than his opponent. We don't see any type of scouting from Classic in his main base, so he wouldn't be prepared for any type of proxies should they happen in this scenario, but that's not the case here. I have a feeling that throughout these matchups, we're going to see more standard games than everything. There was so much cheese between STX Seoul and SK Telecom that KT Rolster is probably like, all right, we know exactly, where the potential cheeses are going to be, what they're going to do, so, probably as a response to that, STX Seoul realizes that, and they're going to just rely more on macro games.
Yeah, and that's the reason why KT Rolster players, they're always scouting inside the main base to make sure that their opponent is not going for proxy to gateways inside the main base. Remember, these players, yes, if this was a regular Pro League season and lost one match, it doesn't really matter. But now it's post-season and every single match counts. So for example, in this particular match between KT Rolster and STXO, let's say Puzzle loses. In this matchup, we have Innovation coming out next for STX Seoul against Crazy. If he wins, then it's a guaranteed ace match for STX Seoul. KT Rolster does not want that.
Yeah, and although I don't give Hive a lot of... I don't think he has a good chance against Flash. Mini and Trap, they have 2 PvPs, and they both have performed well in the past with their PvP, so I could certainly see STX Seoul taking out KT Rolster before it hits the ace match if Classic, if Innovation can grab these early second and third match victories. Something to note here, we do have we had a slightly faster cybernetic score for our STX Seoul player Classic. Maybe we could see some fast 3-gate aggression from him. He is getting a Stalker here, building a Sentry behind it though, so still up in the air. We do have the a standard, very safe 2-gate opener from his opponent Puzzle as well.
Yeah, the STXO, the name itself, you think about cheeses from your opponent and you need to play a little bit more defensive. That's what Puzzle's doing right now. Getting up to 2 gateways, getting 2 additional Stalkers, making sure that he doesn't die to early cheese from his opponent Classic. Yeah,
no, this is actually going to be a bit of an issue for Puzzle because, alright, he's going to have to micro that Sentry properly. He can use the Force Field, and he has 2 additional Stalkers here as well to scare away the Mothership Core. This Harass will not be able to do anything with the Sentry from his side.
Yeah, Classic also needs to be careful he does not overcommit in that area. Getting a Sentry and taking out the Force Field is very nice as a Protoss player, but if you risk too much, then you can lose the Stalker, the Assault, and the Mothership Core to only 2 Stalkers and a Sentry.
Alright, well, it looks like both players are going to go ahead and grab a relatively fast expansion, similar to Game 1. When it comes to PvP from Kesma players, and in Pro League specifically, we have been seeing just more and more macro-orientated play from them. It's one of 2 things, or maybe it's one of 3 things. You either have Proxy Tech, you have Blink Stalkers, or you have a fast expand.
And we see Classic taking the Robo before taking the expansion at the Natural. This is going to allow him to get the Observers out slightly quicker and have more Immortals compared to his opponent. And remember, there's no reason for Classic to go for the Nexus first before the Robo, especially after seeing no Nexus from his opponent.
Yep, indeed. So everything is revealed here for Puzzle. He knows what's going on. He's gonna... Both of them are pretty much going to follow the very similar tech path here. We have a slightly faster expansion for our STX Seoul player Classic. But really, you know, it's not a huge difference in this scenario. Nice follow-up as well. We have a fast Forge from Puzzle, and you know, immediately we see a Forge go down as well for Classic.
Yeah, so if you just look at the timings, it's a little bit faster for Classic. He had the Robo out much faster than his opponent. The Nexus is going to finish slightly earlier compared to his opponent, and Classic can get away with this because he's feeling more confident in this particular matchup. If you look at the build orders between the two players, Classic started out with the 1 gateway, Puzzle started out with 2, so Puzzle is playing a little bit more safe, but that's also because he's feeling a little bit unsecure compared to his opponent, where Classic is just like, I don't care what my opponent does. I'm really confident that I am going to win the match in the end.
If Classic got a very slight advantage here, and we can see that reflected in the supply. About 7 supply ahead for Classic. But, you know, really in this situation, it's still a relatively even game here. They both have their economies online. The probe count is pretty much dead even between both players. We do see 2 Immortals out for Classic, so I guess that's the advantage of getting this earlier Robo with a slightly delayed expansion here, but that didn't even matter based on the build orders between the 2 players. So the additional Immortal account, that's going to be certainly something important to consider when these 2 players eventually go for a big fight against each other.
And this also means that he could squeeze in a Warp Prism in the middle of this. Well, as soon as I say it, he's going to get a hallucinating Warp Prism, but there is a real one right behind it.
Oh, this is so cool. Classic, he's going to totally mind game his opponent. Well, he's going to send one Warp Prism to one base and the other to the natural.
This is like watching Nalra's hallucinated Arbiters recall into the main base as we have the 2 Warp Prisms moving out on the map. But I do believe Puzzle only scouted one of them.
Yeah, and as soon as the Warp Prism moves in the main base, oh, he's going to scout the massive amount of gateways here as well. Nexus Cannon going down in the main base. Are we going to have any units move over there? No. It looks like this, you know, kind of attack here from Classic. Well, it's going to pick off a few Stalkers here. Nice control. Saves the Warp Prism easily as well. Going to go ahead and back off. The important thing throughout all of this, he's scouted all of those gateways going down.
So now he knows what his opponent is going to go for, and he can still use a Warp Prism. Remember, he doesn't have too much anti-air to take out the Warp Prism, only using 3 sentries. So he could still micro these Immortals perfectly, take out as many sentries as possible, and get out of there while saving the Warp Prism and the Immortals.
The Immortals getting low on health behind this.
Oh, smart.
Very nice. Dark Shrine follow-up from our STX Soul player. Looks like, I mean, there is an Observer in the army for Puzzle. The thing is, there's no cannons in the main base. The Warp Prism is still alive. We could see a Dark Templar drop as soon as Classic moves out across the map, and that's going to be absolutely devastating should this attack come.
Yeah, but Classic, he needs to play this smartly, and the reason why I'm saying it is because, yes, like you said, the Dark Templars inside the main base can wipe out every single probe, but he doesn't want to waste too many Warp Bins inside the main base because he knows that his opponent is going for the A gateway timing push.
I'm not sure if that's going to work in this case, though, because, you know, the gateways were scouted really early on. The Dark Shrine has not been scouted as well. And this Observer going to get picked off from the look of things. The sentry is tickling the Observer to death. Also, there's already some SimCity at the natural for Classic as well. I don't think I can see this attack from our KT player really working here. He's getting a 3rd expansion behind this. Also, the Warp Prism just barely out of sight from the Nexus under construction here. The Dark Templar are going to now move towards the main expansion. We also have a Warp Prism follow-up for Puzzle as well. Both players moving across the map.
But look at this. Classic does have a probe in position, but the Dark Templars drop inside the main base. This forces the probes to be pulled, and Classic is going to cancel his 3rd Nexus, knowing that, you know what? I already pulled the probes away inside the main base, and all I have to do is defend against my opponent's timing push.
All right, the Observer's out. The 3 Zealots there are going to be able to eventually pick off this Dark Templar. But look at this. The Forge +1 upgrade has been severely delayed thanks to the Dark Templar harassment, and we're going to see Classic move across the map, attempting to deny his opponent's 3rd base. And in these positions, the positioning goes to Classic. He's going to be able to force a cancel here.
Yeah, he's going to be able to force a cancel. Where is the Mothership Core? He needs it with the main army to make sure he can recall out right away. Yes, there it is. So Classic is in a fantastic position. Puzzle forced to cancel, and all Classic has to do is recall.
I can easily recall out of there. There's still a Dark Templar in the main base of Puzzle as well. Classic behind this remake in his 3rd expansion. The Warp Prism still alive as well. Things are looking very, very solid for Classic.
And this is why Classic is so scary as a Protoss player. He understands this matchup really well, and he knows how to use the units really well. We didn't see this from We didn't see this back in Wings of Liberty when Classic was playing Terran.
Certainly, and ooh, the Dark Templar moving towards the natural. There is an observer there, but the Dark Templar can still do a little bit of damage. These units forced to move back now. The DT getting up to 6 kills, 7 kills, and a massive warp in as well from our KT player trying to take down the 3rd expansion. Will it end up working here though? No, it looks like Classic simply has too many units there in time to deal with the annoying harassment from Puzzle.
And all Classic has to do is fortify the 3rd position. If you look at the upgrade, Classic has +2 compared to Puzzle's +1. He has more bases than his opponent. Yes, Puzzle might have 1 more gateway compared to Classic, but it doesn't really matter as Classic has better unit composition.
Another thing to look at is the supplies here, 128 to 159. We have a pretty solid army advantage for Classic as well. Continuing to be really annoying with this War Prism and the double Immortals. Just, you know, this is kind of forcing Puzzle to go for an attack that he doesn't necessarily want to make, but he's kind of in a dire situation here. Like, what is he going to do now?
To be quite exact, he doesn't want to go for the attack because he knows that he's going to lose the engagement no matter what, but he needs to make something happen. That's the reason why he has the War Prism at the natural. This is really nice. He's going to be able to pick off the cannon and force Classic's units out of position.
Oh, very smart, but is it going to work here? We do have the units moving in, trying to target down the expansion, but no, it looks like we're going to see him try to get a bit of a better position here. Recall goes down. The Nexus is saved here. The Immortals continuing to wreak havoc at the natural as well. Still alive. The Warp Prism hasn't been picked off as well. And, you know, we still have a very solid supply advantage for Classic throughout all of these different mini engagements.
And the only winning scenario for Puzzle in that particular situation was Puzzle using the Warp Prism and the Zealous. He took out every single probe at the natural, and Puzzle suddenly gets the probe advantage compared to his opponent. But Classic, he's been doing a fantastic job with the harassment. He dropped the Immortals, and if you look at the probe count between the 2 players, it's still 64 to 47 of Puzzle, and the 3rd base is getting denied once again.
And Classic continuing to harass this expansion using that Dark Templar. Really just Puzzle is being outplayed, man. He's just being outplayed.
He's being outplayed, and what Classic is doing really well right now is he's just tickling on his opponent. He's not going for a strong punch, but he knows how to win this game. All he has to do is deny the 3rd base, pretty much put his opponent back foot throughout the whole game, and just go for one strong push when he hits the 200-200.
Really smart positioning here at the gateways as well. I think those may be cannons there. The Zealot trying to do a bit of harassment at the 3rd base. Indeed, that is 2 cannons finishing up their warp in towards the 3rd base. Looks like a few probes were picked off there, so not bad from Puzzle. The problem is this impending attack from Classic. It's looking almost unstoppable. He's about to max out compared to an army that's not yet even at 150 supply.
Yeah, the Archons are great against the Zealots, but that's too many Zealots from his opponent. 28 Zealots compared to only 14. And it's not like Classic doesn't have the Archons. He has a similar amount of Archons compared to his opponent. So now Classic, all he has to do is get into that little position. He's going to be able to deny the 3rd while also crushing his opponent's main army.
It's time. Classic's moving in for the main engagement. Is he going to commit? No, some of the Zealots actually get picked off there. Looks like Classic is just... He wants his opponent to move outside that very small choke point, because I guess that's the only way that Classic could possibly lose this engagement here, but, you know, the longer he stays out here, he can just constantly passively, you know, annoy his opponent here. Feedback's going off on both ends, trying to grab the Mothership Core, and this is going to be the trigger. Classic moving in for the attack. He has a really solid concave here, and a few Immortal Archons getting stuck in the back. Beyond that, there's just too many units here for Classic, and oh my, we even see 2 Manor Nexus is going to attempting to be warped in. GG is called, and it looks like we have a 2nd victory for STX Seoul. Classic takes out Puzzle.
And this is the reason why Coach Lee Ji-hoon from KT Roaster stated before the game, all we need to worry about today is Classic, who is a fantastic player. You know, against Innovation, yes, crazy, he can defeat Innovation, but most likely it's going to go towards Innovation. So the key point was set number 2 between Puzzle and Classic, and he was always talking about how Classic, he knows how to win these games with fantastic micro and fantastic macro.
Indeed, so now the score is 0-2, STX Seoul in the lead over KT Roaster. We're going to have our first non-PvP when we come back. It's going to be Crazy versus Innovation on Naro Station. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. This is the SK Planet Pro League Playoffs.